let's try this to see if it works. All right, so I think my audio should be okay now. So just making sure that everything's good. All right, okay. So again, sorry about that. I guess it was a dumb mistake. There's a way to add yourself on the stream for your audio to get visible, and I think I forgot to do that. So that was very, very stupid. So awesome. So sorry about that. We are 10 minutes late. That's totally my fault. Just just going to make sure that everybody is on the same page. I'm Shovik. I'm a second year student at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. I wanted to talk today about resume. And resume is something that we have looked at both before I came to do my MBA at Michigan, but also while at Michigan when I was sort of a pure coach looking at other people um, and their own resume for recruiting. I'm getting some questions already about other stuff, so we'll try to keep the questions today on resume and resume only. Thank you again for joining. What I would love to do at the beginning, just take a minute, very quickly, to know where you guys are from. So on the live chat, just tell me where you are live from, and then we're gonna go jump into it. Thank you guys for the feedback. Sorry about it. Sorry about the audio again, but I think it actually helped to get a bunch of people on the live session. So maybe it was okay that so many people are here and everybody can be on the same page. Awesome. So we have a lot of people from India, Uzbekistan. That is very cool. Thank you again for joining. Um, so, what I wanted to chat about today was to look at a few sabotages that people do while crafting their own resume, right? And this is both during MBA applications and, believe it or not, during recruiting as well. As opposed to what a lot of people think, the MBA application resume is actually fairly similar to the resume that you will use while you recruit for your internship in the summer or for your full-time job um, out of business school, right? So I'm going to use my own resume as one of the defaults. So let's jump into it. So the first advice that I have for people is to be formal, is to be boring. And generally, we don't associate things like boring as a good thing, but in this case of building a resume, it totally is, right? So what do I mean by be boring? If you Google resume templates, you'll find a lot of new fancy ways of showing off your personal achievements. And while they are, they look very good, you have these colors and you have these logos, and you can add new templates and fancy bullets. If you see the resume that I'm looking at right now, well, it's not that fancy, but it's still nice and colorful, has a photo. I do not recommend using a resume like this. As much as you're tempted, try to resist that, because business school admissions people and recruiters will comb through a million different resumes. So you want them to focus on the content of the resume, not on the format of the resume. So this is the resume that I used during my recruiting for full time at the Ross School of Business, and it's actually very close to the format that I used while applying to business school as well. So the only difference that I would say you're allowed to do is switching around the sections. So, for example, because I was using this resume as a resume for my full-time roles, it sort of has my education at up top. When I was applying to business schools, my experience was in the top section, and my education stuff was at the bottom, because I like to keep my current stuff at the top. So as you can see, it's very easily dated to the left, and there's lots of white space, and it's a one-page resume. Nobody cares about the two-page resume unless you have worked for 12, 13, 14 years. There is no reason for you to go for a resume that's more than one page, right? So just keep that in mind while you're building your resume. Boring is good, and one page is the best. So my next advice for you guys is to be as specific as possible. And this, I will come to this point over and over again throughout today, because so many people miss that. So before we jump into an example, let me ask you, what do you think makes a specific resume? So feel free to type in the comments. What do you think makes a resume more or less specific? Okay, so let's take a bullet point that I saw in one of the resumes that I reviewed last year. The bullet point says responsible for 4 associates working for a big manufacturing client on product go to market strategy and branding to improve marketing spend and customer acquisition costs. Do we think this is specific, not specific, medium, somewhat specific? What do we think is happening on this bullet? Okay, so getting some good responses. So somebody says focusing on achievements as opposed to job descriptions. That's perfect. That's absolutely correct. Sentences using less than 12 to 15 words. I don't know. Like, as long as your bullet points are in 2 lines, in some exceptions, maybe three. I wouldn't put random word limits to your bullet points. um, I think this is a decent bullet. It's not awful, but one of the biggest challenge in this bullet is that there is no result. I mean, I have a sense of what you did. Maybe you managed these 4 people and you worked for a big manufacturing client for a specific strategy. And you're saying that you did this to improve marketing spend and improve customer acquisition costs. All that's great, but I am not really sure what specifically you achieved. Every single bullet point in your resume needs to have a specific achievement. If it doesn't, then to be honest, that bullet shouldn't even be there. right? So one way to improve this bullet point is doing something like this. Let a team of four to design go to market for a $100 million manufacturing client, reducing spend by 28% and customer acquisition costs by 56%. Again, for a lot of you, sometimes coming up with this percentages and numbers is fairly difficult because maybe you don't have them. What I would push you to do is, even if you don't have absolutely precise numbers, you can try to estimate some of that numbers, and that's okay. Don't lie, because that's a stupid thing to do, because your interviewer might ask you about this bullet, and if you lied, then it's going to come through and make you look like an idiot. But if you have an estimate, that's totally fine. So there are three numbers here. First, there's the $100 million manufacturing client. It's so much better than saying a big manufacturing client, because what does big really mean? A big for you might be $1 million, but $1 million for somebody else might be peanuts. So that's one way of putting a size on the client that you are working with. But the other one is also putting specific improvements, like reducing by 28% for spend and reducing by 56% for customer acquisition cost. And by the way, customer acquisition cost is a very important metric for people in marketing. So people know that that's very important. So you're quantifying your results and you're going on that specific journey. All right. Let me know if you have questions. Definitely, we will be happy to take them. But otherwise, I'm going to jump into that. So somebody says use specific action results star. That's a very good format. I would go on to say star is a better interviewing format than a resume format, because it's very hard to put in the situation, the task, the action, the results in one single bullet. I mean, if you can do it, great. But if you cannot, I have a better framework for you. So this is the framework. So I'm very happy that somebody brought it up. So the framework that I like to use is called the CAR or ACR, depending on which one works for you. So CAR is basically context, action, results, and ACR is action, context, and then results. Right. So you can pick one and stay in that lane. So for example, if you look at the top bullet talks about persuaded executive team on new strategic directions by analyzing and A/B testing 10 million plus data points with data analytics team on user flow, design elements, and ad placements. So I think this is a decent one. I'm not a big fan of this bullet because I'm not sure which one is the result. Is the result is the persuasion, or the result is like just analyzing this data? The context seemed to be the first sentence. So it seems like the first bullet, the top bullet, is using CAR. If you look at the second bullet, it's collaborated with data analytics team to analyze 10 million plus data points on design, user flow, and ad placements to convince executive team of new strategic directions. So this is more like ACR. So you're telling them what you did at the first, then you're giving them some context, and then you're ending with results. So what I would say is pick a format and stick to it. So if you're using CAR, if you're a big fan of putting the context out there first, then the action, then the results, stick to the format for at least 90% of your bullets. If you're using ACR, if you want to put your action first and then give the background and then give the result, then stick to that format for most of your bullets. I'm a big fan of ACR. I like to use action first and then telling my reader that, hey, by the way, this action was in this overall context. And then finally, I like to give them the results. All right. So star can become really tough to include everything in one bullet. By the way, the T in the star means for task. So what would you task to do? But this format, I think, is slightly better. It's more nuanced and a little bit more contextual. So I think it helps a little bit more. So it's third thing that I see a lot of people do is not be realistic. And I'm not lying here. This is an exact bullet point that I saw in one of the resumes for from my peers in Michigan Ross, which says design the thought leadership. I think there's a small typo there. Design the thought leadership strategy for the Indian government that would contribute to 70% of India's GDP in 2022. Now, this has so many problems, right? Number one is a thought leadership can't really contribute to GDP. A GDP is a very specific economic measure and metric for a country's economic progress. And India's GDP must be in the range of $2 trillion, and 70% of $2 trillion is well over $1 trillion in itself. So to claim that your thought leadership contributed $1 trillion to the Indian economy is stupid at best and absolute lying at worst, right? So definitely try to make sure that your achievements are realistic, because pre MBA, you're probably 25, 26 year old. Unless you have been wildly successful, why would you do an MBA? If you are, if you made $10 million in your business, why would you go for an MBA? For most people, it's sort of like they're in the entry level of their work, or they're in mid management, something like that. It's a little strange to have insane achievements, and you want a balance of ambitious and realistic too. So awesome. So let's jump. Well, somebody says that's really hilarious. I agree. It's true though. That's the unfortunate part, that it's very, very true. Okay, so let me know if you have any comments, and then we'll jump into the next one. Okay, so I want to spend some time on a Q&A, so I'm going to jump into my last slide for today, which is being personable, right? And a lot of us do this. We will end our resume with extracurricular or other interest. And a lot of bullet points would have something like this. My hobbies are reading, listening to music, cooking, and traveling. I mean, come on, that's everybody's hobby. Everybody likes to read, or well, everybody likes to claim that they like to read. Everybody listens to music. That's not, you know. And cooking and traveling, I mean, sure, maybe you can make a French toast, or maybe you can make an omelet. And is that really cooking? I don't know. Or maybe you are a really good cook, but that's not really coming here. And liking traveling, that's one of my pet peeves. Like, who doesn't like to travel, right? Like, given the money, you would be able to travel anywhere you want. There's other travel examples, as you can clearly see. That's one of my pet peeves. Traveled across 30 countries in 5 years. I mean, sure, it's a great thing that you traveled across 30 countries, but that just only means that you have money. You just have money to spend on traveling, on like plane tickets and hotels and Airbnbs and whatnot, right? Backpacked in Europe for 17 countries. Well, good for you, but unless you tell me what's so unique about it, lots of people backpack in Europe. Again, it just means that you have the money to travel, right? One way to look at this section and make it more interesting is to take one thing that you're passionate about, like really passionate about, and then show that, look, I'm not like every other cook out there. So I enjoy cooking, that's just me. And I did during a time when my work wasn't that hectic. I did 6 months of weekend culinary school, and I actually chefed the restaurant as a line cook, because just plain interest. I knew someone who had a Portuguese restaurant in Bombay, and I acted as their line cook just because I was bored and I wanted to do something interesting. And cooking has been a big part of me. And I also, at Ross, I cooked a lot for different people, like giving people a taste of Indian butter chicken. That was really big, big, big for me. So I wanted to showcase the fact that, look, cooking and experimenting with food is one of the things that I'm really interested in and passionate about. So there you go, right? That's a hobby. That's a specific interest that you can then showcase. Writing down your mindless hobby may not always be a great idea. All right, so those were the 5 things that I wanted to share really quick. I'm going to be sticking around, taking a few questions. Let me know if you have questions. But also, I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about some of the current things that are going to happen on GMAT Club, right? So we are sort of trying to do, and this is my pet project, where we are trying to get resumes from other people, and then helping them build better resumes. So one of the ways to do that is just message me on GMAT Club, message me a resume bullet that you have been working on, and something that you think can have some improvement. And then what I would do is I would improve that bullet point as far as I can, and I would post it on GMAT Club for other people to come and comment on. Right. So that's a pet project that I have taken up, and I really want to do it. So if you want to do that, send me a private message on GMAT Club and give me a resume bullet that you want to work on. Right. So that's first thing. The second thing is next week we are also again going to be doing a bunch of videos starting tomorrow. So tomorrow our video is going to be on the business school application timeline, where we're going to analyze when do you actually apply, when do you start writing essays, when do you start writing your resume, and all of that. Next week I'm going to be joined again by Maria on Friday, well, where we will look at profiles of some of the admitted students, analyzing them and looking at helping them out with some of their decisions of joining specific business school. Any deadline on resume submission? If you mean deadlines to submit it to me, there is no deadline. This is my username. Just put it there on the comments. Just find me on GMAT Club. I am always there, and message me your resume, and I would be happy to take a look and improve the bullet point for you. I'm probably going to be there for the. I'm probably going to do that for the next few weeks. So definitely let me know. So there is one thread that I am sort of administering for this specific purpose, for this specific resume thing. If you can find that thread, great. If you can't, just PM me, and I will get it done. So if you're looking for that thread, I'm just putting that thread on the comment. This is the thread where I will be reviewing some of your resumes. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. So please let me know if you have comments. I'll be happy to take some comments about resumes. If you don't have comments, well, just send me your resume bullets, and I will do my best to try to improve them. I hope this was useful. I hope this was fun. Join me tomorrow at the same time, and I promise there will be no audio issues. Today I was just dumb. Tomorrow we're going to talk about, again, business school application timelines. What's the right time? When should you apply? And when should you start doing that whole application process? Okay, quick question for you out of Toronto. I was a professional hockey player, both a passion and my job. Would I put this under work experience or not? Well, if you were a professional hockey player, Matt, then your profession was to play hockey, which then definitely comes under your work experience, right? So if you were working for a team, for a specific league, yeah, man, that's absolutely your work experience. And if you want to include a bullet point on how you since working there, you have also been involved in passion hockey projects or in other sports, that's fair too. Absolutely, I would do that, because that would also make you stand out a lot from your peers who are applying to business schools. All right. So you're welcome. Somebody's thanking me. Make sure to send me a resume bullet on GMAT Club, and I'll be happy to dissect it. Join me tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and I think 10:30 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. 9:30 p.m. India time. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks again.